Hello, and welcome back to Nurses Speak. This is Tonya with Nurses Speak, the channel for Black nurses, nurses of color, and open to all nurses. And this is where no topic is off limits and your voices can be heard. So let's jump right into it. I'm reading an article as we speak from Becker's Hospital Review. And this is about a phony degree scheme tied to nurses. And in no other place, this happened in Florida. Well, it originated in Florida, let's just say, but these nurses have spread themselves in several states over the country. And it's a Justice Department probe where so far 25 people have been charged for their alleged participation in this scam involving 7,600 fraudulent diplomas and transcripts that originated from 3 shut down nursing schools in Florida. Okay, so this is where the nurses didn't have the appropriate amount of clinical hours or courses. They didn't have degrees from these programs, but surprisingly, they took the NCLEX and passed, right? But they weren't legally qualified to take the test in the first place. So they used these fake credentials to apply for the exam and take the exam. So some of them are nurses, technically, but not officially because they really didn't do the work to qualify for the exam based on what the state requirements are. So this is a serious thing, right? And it has a lot of people alarmed, because there's nursing regulatory bodies in other states. I believe New York is one of them, Delaware, as I said, Florida, and there may be a couple of others as well. So this is a serious thing, and it looks like, so I mean, nursing is pretty much catching up to a lot of other work industries where there's fraud going on and things of that nature. And so while it's very disturbing, it's not entirely surprising because I'm pretty sure these things are happening quite often, but it's not really brought to the forefront like this on such a large scale with so many people involved, stemming from one point. So I mean, these are desperate times and people are pulling out all sorts of desperate measures, right, to get their foot in the door of what many see as a lucrative career option. So this is where we're at with that right now. So I don't know, fraud is fraud, right? And the Justice Department is doing what they need to do to make sure that those things are addressed. But needless to say, that's just going to make things so much harder for nurses legitimately doing their coursework, earning their degrees, and taking the tests. Really what they may have to go through going forward when additional checks and balances are put in place by the states to make sure that people who actually qualify to take the NCLEX are actually those people sitting in at those seats doing the exam. So if anything, they haven't made it any easier for anybody, and these people are going to face prosecution and jail time, no doubt. I mean, let's face it, because the charges are going to be stacked, right? It isn't just going to be one thing, because They're talking about mail fraud, wire fraud, impersonating a professional, practicing without a license, because technically they got a license, but they got it fraudulently. So it's many, many things that's going to be stacked on each of these individuals. So it wouldn't surprise me if they wind up doing some jail time when everything is said and done and each of these people stand trial. So it's going to get ugly. I'm pretty sure there's more to come from this story. Seems like it's going to be an ongoing story. For those of you interested in reading more about it, I'll put a link in the description of this. But when I left off, we were talking about nurses going on strike, like in New York, right? So we know a couple of hospitals that actually did occur, and they've gone back to it. They got back to work pretty quickly, and they got a raise. And so, right now, there's talk about, and I think they got some staffing ratios implemented in there too, if I don't recall. And so basically, it's about why now? Why give raises? Okay. And raises are necessary because technically it's every 3 to 4 years. And then they'll do like a 3-year tiered increase in salaries for nurses. So, income has to keep up with inflation, right? Everybody deserves a decent wage when it comes to the work that they do. And trust me, nursing is very stressful kind of work. So every dollar they get, they deserve. I'm not saying that to exclude anybody else. I'm specifically talking about nurses. So don't get your knickers twisted, but this is the channel for nurses, right? So this is what we're talking about. And, so a lot of hospitals are scaling back on this travel nurse utilization. As we know, that's very costly as well. Those travel nurse rates are coming down. We know that to be true as well. But the one thing that's standing out is a more consideration given to the gig economy style of a workforce, where some hospitals are looking more at flexibility to help retain nurses by offering them more autonomy in their scheduling and their work hours. So some are even going so far as offering anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8, 10, 12-hour shifts, mini shifts they talk about. And I recall many years ago, and I'm going to go back a while, probably like more than 20 years ago, I did some work for an agency where they did offer 4-hour shifts. And it was really convenient because I had worked in a particular place and in a facility, and within walking distance was another facility. So I might leave my 8-hour position, which was full time, and walk over to this other hospital and work 4 hours agency. And basically, what I was be assigned to do, maybe to help with medication administration, because that's really what you do in that bulk of time, is really give meds, right? And so it offers some relief to the staff that was already there. So you didn't necessarily have to be there for the whole shift, but you work those 4 hours to do a med pass. And that's a tremendous burden off the regular staff there, because don't forget, they have admissions, they have discharges, they have transfers, they have doctor's orders to do, they're working on labs, they have patients going for tests, they have patients that need to be cared for, physically cared for, meal times and all those other things. And so it would either be a med pass or, making sure that the patients that I was assigned to receive their meals. If there were any issues with any of those patients, you try to address them within that 4-hour window. But I actually loved that. And there wasn't that many places that actually offered it. It was rare at the time, but I found that to be one of the most, enjoyable things that I really could have done. because I already knew, like, even no matter how rough it got, it was only 4 hours. So I kind of could, get through it. So I had my mind focused, 4 hours, that's it, right? And I'm out. I didn't have to get caught up in the drama, the politics, the culture of the organization. I was given my assignment, did my assignment, and thank you. See you next time. So it was actually good. So if places decide to go back to that, I would recommend that. If you get enough people to do it, it could really work. But just as long as these places are aware, if you have people working shorter shifts, obviously you need more people, no matter what, right? Anytime you're working on a flex type shifts, you need more bodies, right, on the unit, because people are going to be leaving quicker, or if they're working longer shifts, they're going to be off for more days, right? I don't recommend people doing any more than, 4 straight 12 hours, because that's a lot. You need recovery time, adequate recovery time. So those are all things to be considered as well. So if you're a nurse and you're interested in that, do your research, see what's out there, see what's being offered. Ask for what you want. It doesn't hurt. Sometimes if an organization really, really needs a nurse and they want to fill positions, you may say, look, I can only work 20 hours a week because I have other obligations, whatever those obligations may be. I'm in school, I have to, provide care for my children. I'm providing care for, elderly relative, what have you. I have my own personal health issues that I have to attend to. I can do 20 hours a week. I could give you 4 hours Fridays or whatever it is, right? These are things you have to negotiate now. I think now is a time where nurses really should look at negotiating for what they want, what meets their needs, so that they can practice, have their income, and live their life, right? And have everything working out harmoniously, not where you are stuck in a position with a specific schedule where everything else in your life has to revolve around that job. That's old, that's done. That's done. Right now, we need to be looking at life itself, what we need out of our existence, right? What are we bringing to our existence? And not letting everything around us be something that's extracting our life force energy where we get nothing back. So these are all things to consider. And as I said before, it's not just all about the money, right? Because I recall when I worked in a hospital-based nursing, when I first started out as a staff nurse, I never really thought that the work was that bad. I was shocked. Yeah, my pay was very low for what I considered to be a lot of work. But at the same time, I think we had reasonable amounts of patient assignment. And I know that shifted. It depends on where you worked, though, because some places were historically short-staffed, and especially if you worked nights, ooh, it could be treacherous, right? You could really have more patients than anybody could reasonably handle, and I must have not really even been thinking straight, because I walked in some place and I was like, ooh, you got to do some deep breathing before you could even wrap your head around all what you would have to do. But yeah, so it's like the thing that I felt most was that at that time I had time to actually take care of people, hands on, feed somebody if they needed to be fed, actually give somebody a bath, things like that. I talked about this a little bit before, but give somebody a medication, actually explain what is it doing for them, how you feeling with it, just talk to people, educate them, right? Ask them things like, what did you do? What kind of things do you do? Where were you before this? How did this situation occur? How are you handling the current illness, or, whatever the person is experiencing? You had time to have conversations with people. and not just for passing the time, but meaningful conversations where you would actually get to know your patient and find out what would be most meaningful for them to learn from the experience of being a patient, right? Having an encounter with someone who they would perceive was really interested in them as a person and not just, another set of tasks to be fulfilled. And so it was really different. And then there were those times when, you just had to get through it. You had to do a lot for a lot of people and you just had to get through it. Unfortunately, at night, most people are sleeping. So you didn't really have that same level of engagement as when you worked during the day. But you had a lot more patience. So you really didn't have time anyway to get too involved with anything other than what you had to do during that night, which is mainly, giving medication if necessary, monitoring IVs and vital signs, making sure nobody's falling out the bed, right? Things like that, serious things, making sure everybody's in their right bed where they're supposed to be and not bothering any other patients. So, it is what it is. Let's see. And, there's also a trend towards what I've been reading about and hearing about is more consideration given to the implementation of shared governance. And I say in implementation because shared governance has been around for a long time, but it has been more, I would say, performative, right? Where it didn't really mean anything, but it was a nice buzzword. It's just like DEI, the DEI work. Is it transformative or is it performative, right? Like, what are we really doing here? Are we saying that we offer something when we don't really offer it and we can't see it being fully executed in a meaningful way? And I think with shared governance, what we're learning from nurses becoming more vocalized and outspoken about what's affecting them and what they want from the organizations that they work for, I think we're going to see more and more shared governance take on a new form where the things that nurses on the front lines are saying will have to be addressed. They can no longer be ignored because nurses are out. Their feet are out the door already. They're just moving about. Right? And from my experience, it's like, if I can't get what I need where I'm at, I'll find it somewhere else. Or if I can't find it anywhere else, then I'll just work for whoever's paying me the most, or who has the best benefits, or who's offering me a schedule that fits my lifestyle needs. These are the compromises that occur, right? Because there is no perfect place. And so, as when it comes to loyalty, it's loyalty to self right now. That's basically what it is, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to matter to yourself. Yeah, so I think that a lot will come from what's being done right now. We're going to probably see a lot of changes as it relates to nursing. And, but again, on the front line, on the ground level, it's still a lot within the culture that needs to be addressed because you may still be dealing with things that really haven't been addressed from many, many years ago. And this is why you see nurses all over YouTube right now crying. They quit their job, they left here, they left there. They're ready to leave nursing after less than 5 years. They can't for the life of them figure out why they went into nursing. They hate it. Or they're just pushing themselves into other careers. They have nurses. So they're going into other aspects of nurses, like, aesthetics or, I don't know, travel. It could be anything, right? Selling smoothies, I don't know, all types of things, selling nutritional products, going into these infusion centers, things of that nature. So they're not in hospitals. They don't want to be in hospitals. And you can't blame them, right? When there's so many other options out there. But what that says for a lot of people as well is that, hey, we're going to have to look at how do we take care of ourselves. Because think about it, if you're a nurse and you ever have to be a patient in a hospital, you want to feel confident that whoever is taking care of you as part of the healthcare team wants to be there and knows what they want to do and is committed to it, right? You don't want somebody who's like, oh, you know what, I got to run now because I got an appointment to give a Botox injection down the street, right? So, like, look, I can't really hang around to see if your pain is feeling better or not, but I gotta go. I mean, it is what it is, right? So, really, we have to look at, what's going on with the integrity out here. And that's not to say that these issues don't arise in other industries and in other professions as well. But when it comes to nursing, for some reason, there's this really high expectation that, we just put the patient first. I mean, that's something we've been indoctrinated to think and to do, right? Patients come first, patients come first. And so put yourself in the patient role. You want to be first, right? I am my first patient. I am the first person I have to take care of. I do want to take care of myself with love and integrity and compassion and kindness and respect and dignity. I want those things for myself. And once I begin to give myself those things and understand how I feel, having that, that's when I can give it freely to others. Not when I feel beaten down and oppressed and burnt out and bankrupted and abused and neglected. Then what do I have to offer anyone else? My offerings may be quite limited under those conditions. So, this goes back to my original mantra of self-care, right? A lot of people don't particularly use the term self-care or don't understand it, or maybe it's overused. But I feel like self-care is caring about yourself, is giving a damn about yourself, and doing that first, and knowing that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You don't have to apologize for your own needs. So, anyway, look forward to some really interesting interviews coming up in the near future. I'll be reaching out to some nurse leaders and hoping that they'll accept my invitation to come on this channel and share their experiences with me and this audience, because this is Nurses Speak. This is the channel where no topic is off limits and you deserve to be heard. So tune in until next time. This is Tonya. Be well. Take care of yourself. You deserve it. Bye now.